In this video, I'm going to go over the A Cyst Lab. This is a lab that looks at cysts, which are little cases that embryos of brine shrimp live inside. So this guy here is a brine shrimp. You may have heard of a sea monkey. They're little creatures that are related to lobsters and crabs, and they've been on this planet for a really long time, like since the time of the dinosaurs, and they look pretty much exactly the same now as they did then. So scientists feel like these organisms must be doing something right in terms of evolution, because even though our planet has changed so much in millions of years, these organisms look pretty much the same. This is a lab we would normally do in class with real water, real organisms. You would design it yourself, carry it out yourself. Unfortunately, we obviously can't do that, so I'm giving you the data and all the information that you need. So this is not going to require any extra materials at home. You've got everything that you need to complete it right here on your iPad. To get you started, you're going to use the internet, Google, Wikipedia, wherever you want to go. You're going to jot some quick notes there. Page 1 here should just take you only a few minutes. You're just getting a general idea of what is this little critter. Then when you move on to the second page, you'll see that you are going to put this critter into some kind of extreme environment. Always when we do a lab, we want to have some controls, some things that we keep the same. So you have been assigned to an extreme environment, and then half of your cysts will be in that extreme environment, while the other half are in normal, good saltwater conditions. You're going to find your last name here and identify which variable you were given. For example, I'm Sable, S, so I'm looking only here at bleach. So I'm going to imagine that I've got some cysts that have been soaked in bleach. That's what it says here. I've got 16 cups. I put some cysts into each of those cups, between 2 to 10. Those are going to be soaked in bleach. After they've been soaked in bleach, I'll put them into normal salt water. And then for my other cysts, my other 16 cups, I'm going to put them as my control, and they are going to be put into normal environment. At the end of this whole thing, I'm ultimately trying to see, are my cysts able to survive in the bleach equally as well as they are able to survive in the control? When these cysts, they look kind of like pepper flakes or like sand grains. So when they're put into the salt water, they'll end up hatching out and they'll start swimming around and look something more like this. So it's usually very obvious to tell, are they still in their cyst or are they swimming around? So at the end of the experiment, I'm going to compare these two and I'm going to see, did the bleach impact how many of them can hatch out of their cyst? Continuing on, you can see that you're going to end up writing a lab report. This lab report will not be submitted on Schoology. It is going to be a Google Doc, so please follow exactly what it says here. When you create your Google Doc, you'll ultimately turn it in by just sharing it with your teacher. You're going to come up with a title. The expectations for the title are there for you. In your Google Doc, please follow this lab report guideline exactly. It gives you a lot of tips. Then you're going to write a little intro. You're going to identify what is the question that we were asking. You'll talk a little bit about how the cups were set up. You'll identify a hypothesis, which is like your prediction. So you're going to predict, do you think that your extreme environment, do you think that your bleach is going to affect how many of these cysts can hatch out? So you'll follow this if-then format that you might be familiar with from your other science classes. You'll also write an abstract. In the abstract, this is going to be kind of like the bulkiest part of your lab report. You'll address all of these bullet points. You'll use your pre-lab to talk a little bit about the cyst and talk a little bit about the shrimp. You're also going to tie in a bit from our class notes. What does this lab have to do with evolution and why are we doing it here? And then little bit of a bigger project for you is you're going to need to find 3 experiments that have been done with brine shrimp. I'll tell you, there are hundreds on the internet. So it's going to be a matter of finding good ones and then citing them and talking about them properly. There is a doc on Schoology about how to cite, so please read that doc. There's also some websites that help you figure out how to cite properly, but honestly, follow the doc, and that's probably your fastest, quickest way to properly cite what you find. These citations should be for the 3 experiments that you found, meaning you're not going to say brine shrimp traditionally live in freshwater creeks and then put a citation there. You are citing experiments. So these are experiments that I should be able to find using your citations, and I can see that you found actual lab data that you looked at. This is going to take you a little bit of work, and I would guess that a lot of you don't have much, if any, experience in finding labs online. So you're definitely going to want to speak up or reach out if you need help, because that's going to take you a little bit of work. So please follow those guidelines. You're going to analyze the results of your experiment. You'll use a website or an app, any website, any app, to create some kind of graph to show your results. Remember, you are comparing how many hatched in extreme versus how many hatched in your normal environment, and you'll conclude, is there a difference between those hatching rates? And then lastly, you'll answer these questions in the discussion. Here is shown the grading rubric. This follows what was up above. So these ideas that are here are restated on the previous page. So it's not like there's new information in the rubric that was not up here. It's the same thing so that we can do a fair job of grading and there's no confusion about what the expectations were. At the end of the doc is all of the lab data. Based on my last name, which was S, I should be looking at the bleach data, so I do not care about any of this. I am only concerned with the one that I was assigned, so I am going to look only here at bleach. Everything else I do not need. So then when I'm looking at the data set that I have, again, the top set of cups identifies your extreme environment. In this case, these are the ones that were soaked in bleach. And my bottom set of cups are my normal environment. And I am going to compare ultimately the percent hatched in each. So in order to do that, I'm going to go through each of these cups and I'm going to count up the number hatched, and I'm going to add up for all 16 of these cups how many of them total have hatched. I'll then go through and unhat is the unhatched ones. So I'll count up how many total in all 16 of these cups, how many total are unhatched. Once I have those two numbers, I will calculate the percent hatched. So in order to find the percent hatched, I want to know how many of them are hatched over how many total did I have, which would be hatched plus the unhatched. You'll multiply it by 100, and to make life simple, let's just round to the nearest whole number. So I would get a number, for example, such as 46% of them. That is not accurate, I just made that number up. But I would say 46% of them hatched in bleach. Then I would do the same for my normal cups. Count up how many of them have hatched, how many of them have unhatched, and I again will get a percentage for my percent hatched. I am going to make this number up. Let's say 99% of them are hatched. The graph that I make will reflect only these two numbers, 46% of them and 99%. And then in my analysis, I will identify, Do I feel that my hypothesis was supported or not? How does my data reflect that? And so on. If you need help on this, please reach out to your teachers. There is a rough draft due. That rough draft should be pretty much totally done. It's not a rough draft like, oh, this is all I have started yet. No, this is your first lab report for the course, so you need to put in 100% effort for the rough draft, and your teacher will give you feedback if any of it needs to be cleaned up. The rough draft will not be worth the full 40 points. It's going to be more of a completion grade. Does it seem that you hit and tried on all of the aspects? Meaning we won't be grading with like the 40-point rubric, but you'll get just like a completion grade. Then you'll clean up whatever you need to do, and the final lab report will be strictly graded based on that rubric. It's going to be graded for accuracy and precision. Maybe your rough draft is already going to be 40 out of 40 points and it's going to look beautiful, and then you'll have no work to do on it for the next week. So that's kind of the goal. Let us know what we can help you with.